starts to really show itself, especially when you start to do more client work, but also you bring on like team members and partners, people that are working alongside you on your brand. It gets complicated, very complicated. And it's oftentimes, I mean, it has cost us our fair share of friendships. I'm sure for you as well. It gets really muddy.
Yeah. Like try explaining to someone who like, I've tried explaining to someone who has like, you know, their like set job and like their set income and then they do like the photography or videography for, you know, as their personal creative stuff. Explaining to them like why you don't want to like work on something right now. And there goes a friendship right there because I personally felt like it was also like, I've also been called like a sellout by friends who like, they only do it creatively. They only do it personally because they're like, oh, you're like selling your art. Like you're selling your stuff for money. And I'm like, yeah, like I'm trading what I like to do creatively to like pay my bills.
It's
like
a trade. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a trade, you know, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
And obviously not to say that like every job that I've ever done, was, you know, I felt like, not that I've never felt bad or like, not that I've never had like a bad job or a bad gig that I'm like, like I wouldn't do that again. You know, everyone has had those, but to be called like a sellout because you're like selling your creativity for money is like offensive. You know, it was offensive to me. And like, I couldn't understand how like a friend of mine who does the same thing that I do could sit there and call me a sellout. Yeah. But it's because we live two completely different lives, you know?
It's also really, I feel like, doesn't really make much sense when you keep thinking about it.
No.
Because we sell everything.
That's
like,
what I said. I said, I sell my work.
You sell your time.
You sell your time. Exactly.
You sell your labor.
You sell your labor. You sell your mental. You hate your job. You know, that person, they hated their job. So you're selling your time and your mental health and stress and all that stuff.
For probably like, what, $15 an hour?
Well, I don't know how much they got paid.
Listen, we're not going to talk about somebody else's bag. It's okay.
Right, exactly. We'll keep that. It's not even about
I got annoyed because
that's
doesn't
exactly
make
how I felt.
any sense whatsoever.
When you really think about it, it doesn't make sense. But because they view their art at such like, you know, they value their art so much, which I understand that they could never imagine doing that.
They probably tie it to a lot of things that are oftentimes like, you know, a lot of people try to tie art to spirituality and kind of other things that are ethereal. And it's hard to interact with people who are too heady about their art because then it's like anything can exist and anything can happen and anything can be anything that you want it to be. And this is the beautiful world that we live in with art. That's just how
and there's always
some
like
people.
There's this side. It's like a spectrum. Like there are people that are super like spiritual with their art, and like I've seen, you know, them create beautiful things and go through that process. But the first time that I picked up a camera was because I wanted good pictures for Instagram. That was it. Like it was nothing spiritual for me.
Listen,
and I took the pictures, I posted them, they came out good. I kept going. You know, I always tell people this, like I just started taking pictures of myself for Instagram. It was always that. So it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't take anything away from me to give up my art for money, you know, because I'm not attached to it in that way. To me, it's been like the best business opportunity, the best career opportunity. I've gotten to go so many places. I've got to meet so many people. That's how I see it. So,
and that's hard to sometimes explain and get across, and it's even harder to explain why it's not as glorious as some people might feel like it is. Freelance work, especially as a creative, is romanticized in a lot of ways. The idea of being your own boss and, you know, not having to work for anybody and also being able to do whatever you want and making money off of, like, you know, doing stuff and being at home and all this stuff that people think it is. But there are a lot of pitfalls, and it is, and I've seen this for experience. My dad is an entrepreneur, and he, you know, he hated working for people. He was his own boss. That was the only thing he wanted to do. But he had to drag us through the mud to make that happen, like his family. And it worked because he's really hardworking, and he's an incredible individual, but those are the sacrifices that you have to make for it to work out in the end. And there is oftentimes when you first start, no benefits. There's no set pay. There's no 40 hours. There's no part-time. There's no vacation hours. There's no sick hours. There's no health. You don't get health insurance for free. Well, you can. There are ways to get health insurance for free, which Project Fuel is going to start talking about soon. We'll get to that.
Okay.
But there are so many difficulties when it comes to being a freelance anything, and people oftentimes don't talk about how hard it is. Yo, taxes, bro,
taxes
the
first year of freelancing doing your taxes. I was like, I mean, I need to work twice as hard now to pay my taxes.
Yeah, some people don't even do taxes till 5 years deep in their business, and then they're getting audited and they have to like retroactively, bro.
Yeah, that's cool that you had your dad as an example.
Yeah,
because
I was very lucky.
Although like, you know, I'm sure you guys had your tough times, like you mentioned, but having an example of like an entrepreneur in your family, it expands your idea of like what success looks like.
Yeah.